And we've got some big IRA and 401k contribution updates for 2026. That's right, huh?
Yeah, this is something that the IRS kind of announces every year, roughly around this time. They did so this past week. And the good news is that these are all increasing, so giving people a better opportunity to save even more for retirement. And these numbers are important, particularly like 401k contribution limits, because about 70% of private sector employees in the U.S. I mean, that's the option, that they have in terms of contributing money to a retirement plan. So those numbers bumped up. What do we got for those numbers?
Yeah, so in 2026, the 401k in particular has been bumped up to $24,500. That's a $1,000 increase over prior year's limits. And then an extra $8,000 catch up if you're age 50 or older, up from $7,500. So lots of wiggle room there in terms of how much you can contribute. Those 401ks are the most powerful tool for retirement savings for a lot of Americans, 70% of them. So yeah, it's certainly a welcome change.
Yeah, and I think the key thing for folks to remember is if you're kind of on a budget where you're having a certain amount taken out of your paycheck each time to kind of maximize and hit that limit and sort of spread that out through the year, then you need to make an adjustment, because this is a bit more money that you can put in. $1,000 is the equivalent of an extra $100 a month, really, when you think of it like that. And then there's a special catch up for if you're over between 60 and 63. That's kind of a new one.
Right. Yeah, it's $11,250 for that age group. So it's really interesting that change that they added in for such a specific age bracket. I thought that was funny, but still a welcome change. I mean, it's certainly at that age bracket, every dollar helps, especially if you maybe didn't contribute as much as you wanted to early on.
Yeah, why wouldn't they have done like 60 to 65?
Right. That makes more sense
60
to me.
60 to 63.
Yeah.
But then that means for that age group, the aggregate limit for next year, 2026, that you can put into a 401k is going to be that $35,750. So pretty big number in terms of what you can fund. And then similarly, an increase for IRAs and Roths as well.
Absolutely, yeah, up to $7,500 from $7,000 previously, and then the catch-up contribution if you're age 50 or above has gone up to $1,100 from 100, sort of just an index for inflation. But yeah, increases all around for IRAs as well as 401ks.
So if over 50, that's a total of $8,600 that you can put into your traditional IRA or traditional Roth. Chet, I've been doing this a long time. I remember it was $2,000.
Right. That's crazy. Not to age you, but
yeah. So anyway, also for 2026, and this is important as well, 2026 is the year where if you're a high income earner, so they're viewing that as making over $150,000, and they'll look at this year 2025. Those catch-ups, they're forcing that to go into the Roth side of things. So important distinction for folks to kind of remember in terms of what those options are. And I guess, given that, good time to kind of remind people of those differences between that traditional or pre-tax IRA versus the Roth, if you will.
Absolutely. I guess it goes to show that the IRS wants their money now.
Right.
They're sick of the tax deductions.
Well, especially when you're forcing high income earners.
Right.
To force to do the Roth. So you lose out on the tax deduction.
Yep.
The tax savings, so to your point, Chet, less money to Washington, and then you're forced to do the Roth, which means that, okay, now we're collecting that money. Fair point on that distinction.
Right. And then in terms of the key differences, contributions are obviously a big one. So for traditional IRAs, contributions may be tax deductible, meaning they will lower your income in the year that you contribute to the account, versus a Roth IRA that's going to be contributed with after-tax dollars, so it will not lower your taxable income in the year contributed. Obviously, there's pros and cons to that, and a lot of those come to fruition when you actually pull the money out of retirement.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the distinction is. I mean, to your point, the traditional side, and the neat thing is that 401ks now offer both of these options, right?
Seeing more and more of that lately.
Lot more have accepted those IRS changes that allow you to offer both and are offering both to their employees. So yeah, I mean, you save money now when you're putting money in on the sort of the traditional side, but then it's fully taxable when you take it out. And then for the Roth, it's kind of the flip of that. You put it in, you don't get any tax savings, but then the tax savings comes out when you use the money.
Absolutely. Yep. And then another important distinction for RMDs, this causes some tax trouble for a lot of retirees. When they hit age 73 or 75, if you're born after 1960. So for RMDs, for traditional IRAs, you have to take RMDs depending on the year you were born. It can either be 73 or 75, but for Roth IRAs, there are no RMDs, so that's certainly powerful.
Yeah, no, nice little feature of the Roth as well. Traditional IRAs typically would have no income parameters, so being able to make a deduction to that. Now, there's a lot of kind of tests and rules and income parameters that you have to kind of follow if you want to take the tax deduction on the traditional IRA side of things. But the Roths, meanwhile, they do have an income limit in terms of how much you can when you can contribute to a Roth.
Right, absolutely, and that's where the backdoor Roth sort of comes into play. But yeah, those numbers are if you're a single filer and your gross income is less than $165,000, you can directly contribute, and if you are married filing jointly, then that would be $246,000 to go direct into the Roth IRA. You
mentioned the backdoor Roth, Chet. Let's paint that picture a little bit, because I think folks kind of don't realize that this is as great of an option as it could potentially be.
Right. Yeah. No. So if you're in a situation where you're above those income limits, then you would first contribute into the traditional IRA. You're not able to deduct that as a pre-tax contribution, but then you can then convert it into a Roth IRA. At the end of the day, it's the same thing as if you had just contributed directly into the Roth IRA, just with a few extra steps, but you get there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, hence the expression that it's a Roth through the back door, because you don't meet the income parameters in order to do the Roth directly. But if you contribute to the IRA, you don't take the tax deduction, then you convert, then there's no tax on the conversion, because it was after tax that went into that IRA. And if you do it quickly, then there's probably not going to be growth that you would have to pay the taxes on. So interesting. It's funny that's one of those loopholes where we would have expected Congress to maybe close that one, but they haven't.
Yeah, so. I'm not exactly sure why. We have plenty of clients that take advantage of that. Yeah, it's interesting how they just let that. They might as well just let you contribute directly into a Roth.
Remove the income.
Creating extra steps for no reason, but they're not the government isn't known to be the most efficient being.
That's government tax rules for you.
Yep.
And then, of course, you got to have earned income in order to contribute to a retirement plan. You can't make those contributions based on like rental income or pension income or Social Security income. It's got to be earned income, work income to make a contribution to any type of retirement plan for that matter.
Yeah, and in terms of choosing which one is right for you, typically it's if you are in a high tax bracket now and you expect to be in a lower one later, you would go for the traditional IRA, and then vice versa for the Roth. If you're young, maybe in a low tax bracket, or you just expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement, then the Roth makes a little more sense. Obviously, that's very individual. For everybody's is in a different situation, but that's kind of the broad stroke to that.
Yeah, and I think probably the biggest change we've seen over the past 5, maybe 10 years is that the availability of the Roth is much more pervasive. So that really wasn't an option for someone approaching retirement or in retirement today. that Roth really wasn't an option in terms
right.
of where they could make those contributions. So it's definitely changed to give folks a much greater range of choices to choose from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we see that every day with our clients that are already in retirement. Most of them are completely pre-tax for the most part.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Well, anyway, we're going to take a break and continue and talk about a problem that's costing Americans billions of dollars. Coming up next here on Dollars and Cents with Joel Garris and Chet Cowart of Nelson Financial Planning.